Pull closer to the hearth, friends. Closer still. I know the wind is howling like a wolf caught in a snare, and the frost is thick enough on the shutters to crack the wood, but believe me, the cold out there is a summer's day compared to the chill I carry inside. Look at my right hand. Do not be shy. See how it stays gloved, even here by the roaring peat fire. See how the leather is stained with a frost that never melts. If I were to take this glove off, you would not see flesh and bone. You would see something the color of a drowned man's lip, etched with runes that pulse with a light like a dying star. I was once like you. A man of blood and heat. But that was before I sailed to the Isle of the Morning Mist. That was before I decided that the gold of the dead was worth more than the peace of the living. This is the story of how I opened the barrow of Jarl Hrolf the Unyielding, and why the cold hand you see before you is not just a wound, but a tether. It was the year of the iron sky. The harvests had failed 3 times over, and the sea had turned so bitter that the fish fled to warmer depths. In my village, we were eating sawdust mixed with flour, and the ribs of my children were beginning to show like the hulls of wrecked ships. I was a desperate man, and desperation is a key that fits many forbidden doors. There was an old map, scratched onto the shoulder blade of a whale, kept in the village's locked chest. It showed the way to the high barrow of Hrolf. They called him the Unyielding, because, in life, he never gave a foot of land, a single coin, or a moment's mercy. The sagas said he was buried with a chest of sun gold, gold so pure it glowed in the dark, stolen from the southern empires. Do not go, Ewan, my wife whispered, clutching my tunic. The dead in the high barrow do not sleep, they wait. But I looked at my youngest, coughing in the corner, and I chose the dead over the dying. I took my pickaxe, a lantern of whale oil, and a heart hardened by hunger. I sailed alone across the churning gray water to the isle that no bird will fly over. The high barrow was not a mound of earth, but a natural cave at the peak of the island, sealed with a slab of black basalt that weighed as much as a longship. It took me 2 days of back-breaking labor to find the lever point. The air that rushed out when the seal finally cracked didn't smell like rot. It smelled of eternal winter. It was the scent of a world that had never known a hearth fire. It made the hair on my arms stand up, not from fear, but from a physical rejection of the atmosphere. I stepped inside. The lantern's flame shrank to a tiny, blue bead, as if the darkness itself were trying to drown it. The walls were lined with the husks of Hrolf's housecarls. They weren't skeletons, they were preserved by the salt and the cold, standing in niches with their rusted spears, their leather armor creaking as the new air hit them. I ignored them. I walked deeper, toward the center of the mountain, where the air grew so cold that my breath fell to the floor as tiny shards of ice. And there he was. Jarl Hrolf sat upon a throne of mammoth ivory. He was a giant of a man, clad in a cloak of white bear fur that looked as fresh as the day it was skinned. His face was a mask of frozen granite, his eyes closed, his hands resting on the arms of the throne. And between his feet sat the chest. It was overflowing. Arm rings, coins, brooches, all of it casting a faint, sickly yellow light that cut through the gloom. I should have taken a few coins and fled. I should have been content with a handful of survival. But as I stood before that mountain of gold, the hunger in my belly turned into a different kind of void. I wanted it all. I wanted to be the man who bought the world. I stepped onto the dais. The silence was so heavy I could hear the blood thumping in my ears, a frantic, living rhythm that seemed out of place in that temple of stillness. I reached for a massive, golden torque resting right against the Jarl's right hand. My fingers were inches away when I saw it. The Jarl wasn't just holding the gold. His fingers were fused to the chest. The gold was part of his eternal body. I didn't care. I swung my pickaxe, aiming to shatter the ivory arm of the throne and loosen the treasure. The blow landed with a sound like a hammer hitting an anvil. The ivory didn't break. Instead, the Jarl's eyes snapped open. They were not white, nor blue, nor gray. They were the color of the deep ice at the heart of a glacier, a terrifying, translucent void. He didn't roar. He didn't move his head. He simply reached out. His movement was slow, deliberate, and unstoppable. Before I could pull back, his right hand, the cold hand, clamped onto my wrist. I have felt the bite of a winter gale. I have fallen into the freezing surf of the North Sea. But I had never felt the cold. It wasn't just a temperature, it was an erasure. The moment Hrolf's fingers touched my skin, I felt the heat of my life being sucked into him. It was a vacuum of energy. I watched, horrified, as my own arm began to turn a bruised, necrotic blue. The frost didn't grow on me, it grew out of me. I screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the Barrow. The Jarl leaned forward, his face inches from mine. His breath was the smell of ancient dust and forgotten prayers. You wish to take what is mine. A voice vibrated directly into my skull. Then you shall carry a piece of me back to the world of the sun. You shall be my herald, little thief. With a strength that defied the laws of the living, I swung my lantern at his face. The glass shattered, and the burning oil splashed across his bare fur cloak. For a second, the heat distracted the Draugr. His grip loosened just enough for me to tear my arm away. I didn't look back. I scrambled over the rocks, falling, bleeding, and sobbing, as I fled the Barrow. Behind me, I heard a sound that haunts my dreams, the sound of Hrolf the Unyielding standing up. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of 1,000 years of ice breaking all at once. I made it back to my boat. I rowed until my muscles tore, the oars slick with the frost that was now radiating from my right hand. By the time I reached my village, I was delirious with fever, yet my right arm was as cold as a corpse. The gold. I had managed to keep one arm ring. A single piece of the sun gold. I walked into my house and dropped the ring on the table. My wife cheered. She saw the wealth. She didn't see the price. She reached out to hug me, and her hand brushed my right wrist. She shrieked and pulled away. Where I had touched her, a patch of white frost had formed on her skin. It took an hour for the warmth to return to her arm. That was when I realized the Jarl hadn't let me go. He had grafted himself onto me. As the days passed, the cold hand grew. The blue color spread up to my elbow. I found that I could no longer feel pain in that arm, but I could feel everything else. I could feel the movement of the tides miles away. I could feel the approach of a storm before the clouds even formed. And most terrifyingly, I could feel him. Every night, as I lay in bed, I can feel Hrolf walking. He is no longer on the Isle of the Morning Mist. He is on the water. He is walking across the surface of the sea, his heavy bronze boots turning the waves to ice beneath his feet. He is following the cold hand. He is coming for his arm ring. The village changed. At first, the sun gold bought us food and grain. We were rich. But the cold I brought back was contagious. The hearth in our longhouse, once the center of our lives, now struggles to stay lit. The wood burns, but the heat is sucked away by the presence of my arm. The children began to cough again, not from hunger this time, but from a damp, unnatural chill that clings to the walls. People began to avoid me. They saw the way the grass turned to glass where I stepped. They saw the way birds fell dead from the sky if they flew too close to my head. You should have left him in the dark, Ewan, the village priest told me, his eyes full of pity. You brought back more than gold. You brought back the grave winter. 2 nights ago, the lookout at the docks saw something. A tall figure, clad in white fur, standing on the water at the mouth of the bay. He isn't moving fast. He doesn't need to. He knows that as long as I have this hand, he has a beacon. I tried to chop the hand off. I took my best wood axe and laid my arm on the block. I swung with all my might. The steel blade hit my wrist and shattered like glass. My arm didn't even have a scratch. It just hummed with a low, rhythmic vibration, like a heart beating in the deep earth. So, here I sit. The thief of the High Barrow. I tell you this because some of you have heard the rumors of the sun gold. Some of you have looked at the high Barrow on the horizon and thought of your own empty bellies. Do not do it. The Jarls of old didn't just hoard their gold, they bound their souls to it with a greed so powerful it transcended death. When you rob a Barrow, you aren't just taking metal. You are taking an invitation. Listen, do you hear that? The sound of the shutters. That isn't the wind. That is the rhythmic thud, thud, thud of someone walking up the path from the beach. The frost on the door is thickening as we speak. The fire is turning blue. He is here. He has come for his hand. I will go out to meet him now. I have to. If I stay inside, he will freeze this entire hall and everyone in it just to get to me. I will go out into the dark and the cold, and I will give him back his treasure. And perhaps, if the Norns are merciful, he will take the hand with him and leave me with enough life to see the sun one last time. But I fear the truth is darker. I fear that once the cold hand takes hold, it never lets go. I fear I am no longer Ewan the Smith. I am just the Jarl's newest housecarl, waiting for the ice to claim the rest of me. Keep the fire burning, friends. As long as you can. But remember, some things in the earth were meant to stay in the dark.